This video will show you a sample Fluent guided reading lesson in a 2nd grade classroom. The video spans over 2 to 3 lessons.
All right, you can go ahead. Okay, so I've just handed out the book Change of Plan. Today, that's the book that we are going to read. And what I would like you to do to get an idea for what the book is about is open up to one of the first pages that says Change of Plan, and there are some circular pictures on there. And these are 2 great pages that really tell us a little bit about our story today. In fact, look at the main characters are right there on that first page. You can see the sparrow. He doesn't look too healthy, does he? You can see Troy, and you can see Dad. And right there on that next page is a little bit about our story called Setting the Scene. So just listen to that, please. Troy wants to do well in the school science fair. When he goes looking for a special stone to add to his rock collection, he hears a noise. Uh-oh, I wonder what's going to happen. You know what I want you to do? Could you kind of look through the story right now and predict what you think might happen to Troy in the science fair and his special rock collection? All right, while Lawrence is finishing up, can somebody kind of tell me what you're noticing or what you're predicting our story is going to be about? Any ideas?
The rock is turned out to be an egg and chick is in it.
Oh, you think the rock that he picked up might turn out to be an egg and there might be a chick in it. Anybody else? A prediction? What?
Add to it.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Like when he gets home, cause in the pictures it's with his dad, and then they go to help him.
Oh, I'm wondering, what do you think is going to happen to his science fair project? Do you think he's going to win? Do you think it's going to stay the rock collection? Do you think that's going to be a science fair project? Well, my goodness, we have something to find out, don't we, Tommy?
Looks like they might hang like a weird thing in a tree.
Like a nest or something, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't exactly look like a nest.
Thingy-mo-bobbers.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. So we'll have to find out what that is, too. All right, take a look at this, Tommy. Take a look up here. A flower pot, huh? If you look up here, I think this might look familiar to you because remember the other day we talked a little bit about determining the most important parts as we read. And remember how I said after you read a chapter, if you can tell me who or what that chapter is about, and then you can tell me something about that who or what about the who or what in the chapter, you have determined the most important part. Today, we're going to take it a step beyond, and you are going to become writers in this story. You're going to help write the titles of the chapters that we read. I'll be modeling with chapter 1, and then you're going to help me create titles for chapters 2 and 3. The way I do it again is constantly thinking who or what my chapter is about, and what about that who or what. I'm going to go ahead and stick it here on our board. Everybody has a book, right? Go ahead and turn to chapter 1 then, which is actually on page 4. Now before we begin the reading, one of the strange words that comes up is toward the bottom of page 4. It says, his dad collected miniature racing cars while his mom collected vinyl Elvis records. So if you can go ahead and put your finger on that, vinyl Elvis records. Wow, it sounds like he's got a big collection of vinyl records. And if you're not sure what those are, because now we have CDs and all sorts of things, I actually brought one of my old vinyl records. It's a Michael Jackson one. So you can kind of see, it's kind of almost plasticky, isn't it? And you play it on a turntable. So this is an old vinyl record. And some of them are a little bit bigger. Aren't you glad you don't have to work with something like this now? But that's what his dad collected. So knowing that, let's go to the top of page 4 then. His mom, yes, thank you. We're going to go ahead and read this chapter, and I'm going to be thinking of these two pieces to help me create a title. Here we go. Troy collected rocks. He came from a collecting family. His grandpa collected stamps while his grandma collected fancy teaspoons. His dad collected miniature racing cars while his mom collected vinyl Elvis records. Uncle Jack collected fine china plates and his sister Helen collected dolls. I bet all of you have little collections too, huh? Today, Troy added a shiny brown rock to his collection. It was smooth like an egg and felt cold in his hand. Troy thought the new rock would look great with all his other shiny rocks. He had a row of them on his bedroom shelf, displayed in a case he'd made with his dad. The biggest rock sat in the middle with the smaller ones on either side. So far, who is it about? I'm thinking Troy and maybe his family. And what about it? They're talking a lot about those collections. Let's see on page 6. Does it continue? Troy could hardly wait for the school science fair. It was the perfect chance to show off his rock collection. He'd polished each rock over and over. He'd even made a colorful sign to go with the display case, Troy's Shiny Stones. Troy was sure he'd take the science fair by storm. The next day at school, Troy heard Daniel and Alex talking about their science fair project. They'd invented a mouse-powered light globe. The mouse chased a piece of cheese to spin a wheel. The wheel turned a tiny motor to power the light. Troy was proud of his shiny stones, but how could he compete with the mouse light? He decided to go rock hunting again. This time he knew he had to find something extra special. All right, very quickly, can I have you two talk? Can I have you two talk? Who was this chapter about, and what do you think were some things that were happening? Do you two mind? Okay, go ahead, talk quickly. Who and what was it about?
His family and how they collected stuff. That he finds lots of rocks every day.
And he heard other people, and
I don't know about every day, but yeah, you find lots of them.
Great.
Sounds to me like they go like, he went like 2 days in a row.
Wonderful. I was thinking on the same lines. Who was it about? Kind of Troy and his family a little bit. And as far as what about them, well, it was really about their collections. So I could call this chapter, if I keep that in mind, something like the collecting family, something like that. But I also thought the chapter talked a little bit about this science project that wasn't going to turn out very well. So I wonder if I could add something in there like a collection turned idea or something like that, or Troy's collection turned science fair project, or I don't know. What do you think? Do you think I should focus mostly on the family? What are you thinking, Lawrence?
well, there's more pages for the family.
Oh,
And there's only about a couple pages for the science fair so
Ah,
far.
I like
So
that
I
thought.
think we should just continue with the family so far.
Did you like that, the collecting family?
Yeah.
Did you agree, Ready? Okay. Why don't I say collecting
Science fair.
family? Why don't I say collecting family? Because you said most of the pages had to do with the family, and I agree. And I have a feeling that we'll learn more.
Fair.
Something like that, although you were saying that it was talking mostly about the family, right? So I like that. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that right there on my chapter 1. I'm going to put my new title, Collecting Family. Guess what you're going to do for chapters 2 and 3? You're going to come up with title ideas. So I want you to go ahead and start reading chapter 2. Once you're done, go ahead and answer these questions, come up with a title. I will give you a couple of Post-it notes to put your titles on, and when we're all done, we'll discuss. All right, you may begin. Ready? Can I hear you read?
Troy found some beautiful smooth red stones, some pear-shaped black stones, even a dog-shaped gray stone, but none of them could light globes and spin wheels. Troy sat on the ground and sighed. And then he saw it. In the grass near his right foot, he saw the most beautiful stone he had ever seen. It was smooth, round, and a pale brown in color. It was speckled with dark spots.
I wonder if that's going to make his science fair project even better.
Troy leaned forward and wrapped his fingers around it. He was much.
Keep reading. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Troy turned towards the noise. It was soft chirping in the grass nearby. Saw a tight tangle of leaves and twigs.
Why don't you start again for me?
Troy turned towards the noise. It was a soft chirping in the grass nearby. He saw a tight tangle of leaves and twigs.
Take a real close
Twigs.
look. Ah, that's a funny looking G, isn't it? All right, keep going, please.
It looked a lot like a bird's nest peeping out from under. It was a tiny baby bird. Troy panicked. He knew he should try to touch the bird, but he had to do something. What if a hungry cat heard it chirping? Dad will know what to do, thought Troy. He quietly stepped away from the bird and hurried home.
All right. In chapter 3, you can keep going. But first, why don't you go ahead and tell me who you think this main chapter 2 was about?
I'm on chapter 3.
Okay, keep going through chapter 3.
Troy,
Okay, Troy, and what about him?
he was looking for rocks, and he finds something new that he could maybe use.
So what do you think you could call the chapter then?
A new rock.
Oh, do you think that new rock might help him in some way? So in that sense, it's really important, right, to our story, not just the chapter. Why don't you go ahead and put that down for your title and stick it on there, and you may then move to chapter 3.
I will name mine the eggshell of my chapter.
What are you thinking for chapter 2?
Well, he found the eggshell, and that's probably how he found the bird, so I think I'll call it the chapter the eggshell.
Oh, so did you overhear her a little bit?
No.
She was talking too about how he found some sort of an egg or something. So maybe a real pivotal moment in our story, huh? Especially if it'll help his science project. All right, so why don't you go ahead and go to the beginning of chapter 2 and write that down before proceeding. Okay. All right, Lawrence, can I hear you read?
No. Then Dad picked up the towel and approached the baby bird. He dropped the towel over his hands like a big oven mitt and gently reached under the clump of grass. When Dad lifted his hands off the ground, Troy could see something moving in the towel. "Quick, Troy," said Dad, "bring over the pot."
Good. Lauren, you can keep reading. Lauren, can I hear you?
They looked up and saw a sparrow watching from a branch above the nest. I'd say that's the mother, Dad, said Dad. She'll be glad to have her baby back. Dad had brought along a towel and a hanging flower pot. The pot was made of black plastic with drainage holes at the bottom. Before they left home, Dad had filled the pot with straw.
Okay. You can keep reading. Tommy, can I hear you?
They heard another bird starting to chirp. They looked up and saw a sparrow watching from a branch above. "I'd say that's the mother," said Dad. "She'll be glad to have her baby back." Dad had brought along a towel and a hanging flower pot. The pot was made of black plastic and drainage holes at the bottom. Before they left home, Dad had filled the pot with straw.
Do you know what the drainage holes are? They're at the bottom of the pot, and when something drains, it kind of pours out. And those drainage holes are so that the soil can stay moist and yet breathe a little bit, and the water can drain out of there, so it doesn't get too wet.
With the soft footsteps, Dad walked over to the nest and picked it up. The frightened baby sparrow hid under a clump of grass. Troy made a shadow hole in the
Thank
straw.
you. Lawrence, can I hear you read?
Usual branch, he looked into the nest and nearly fell out of the tree. The nest was empty. "Dad, Dad," he called, "something's wrong." But Dad didn't look worried at all. Without a word, he pointed at the bushes near the tree. Troy hugged the tree trunk and looked down. jumping and hopping around on the ground near the tree were their mother and baby sparrow. The baby had left
Right,
the
you can
nest.
stop right there. Did you finish your, did you write down your title for chapter 3 yet? If you could do that, that'd be great. If you could make sure, as far as you've gone, can you make sure you have a title for chapter 2 and a title for chapter 3, and we will discuss in about 2 minutes. So please have your titles in your book and ready for discussion in about 2 minutes.
There's a title here that I found on chapter 4.
Okay, so go ahead and put your chapter in for 2 and 3, please. Okay, and then we'll come back and discuss. All right, group, we better come together because our time is running out. Here's what I would like you to do since it looks like everybody is done. If you could go back to chapter 2 for me, to the beginning of chapter 2 where you put your post-it, and let's go around and very quickly share what title you came up with. But I want you to be able to tell me why you came up with that title. So can we quickly do that? Who would like to start? Lauren, do you mind starting? Go for it. What did you come up with?
I came up with a new rock because
A new rock.
I found a new rock.
Oh, so Troy found a new rock. And why did you pick that, though, as the title? Do you think something about this rock?
Well, even though it wasn't a rock, that's what it said. It was an eggshell, and well, he thought it was a rock, and it was like he found it, and he's like, "Ooh, a new rock."
Okay. Oh, and I wonder if that rock might lead to something else. What did you put down?
Found chick.
And why did you put found chick?
Because we found the chick in an eggshell.
And they were pretty close together, weren't they, Lauren? The egg and the little chick? All right, interesting. Tell me, what did you say?
I said the eggshell
The eggshell. And why did you put the eggshell?
because that's actually what told them the beat chased toward it, and it led to a baby sparrow.
Okay. Interesting. Lawrence, what did you say?
I did chapter 2, the bird.
Okay, and tell us why. That was similar to Ready 8.
They found the bird in chapter 2.
Good. And I put something like sidetracked. And I guess the reason I did sidetracked was because I really felt like he was there to look for rocks for a science project. But then, like all of you, all of a sudden he saw this baby bird and he saw a rock and he saw all these things that kind of took him off track for a little bit. Okay, great. How about chapter 3? What did you come up with for chapter 3? Keeping in mind who and what about that who. Go ahead, Ready 8. You start for us.
The bird's nest.
And why did you put the bird's nest?
Because it's mostly about like how they make the nest and stuff. And
Okay. What did you say, Lawrence?
I said saving the bird because they're saving the bird.
Ah, yes.
I wrote taking care because it's about it's mainly about they're taking care of the bird.
Kind of reminds me of the ones that you put down about the bird nest and even how you said saving the bird. Yes.
The sparrow.
The sparrow. Why did you put the sparrow?
Because they found him. Both the dad and the kid got to see them up close, and they actually got to see what it was.
Oh, a little bit closer. But what happened with that sparrow, do you think? What did they do with the sparrow?
They rescued it.
Ah. So what do you think, Lawrence, of saying the sparrow? What do you guys think?
The sparrow, that's pretty much a grown-up chick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would have been the chick.
Okay. All
Because
right.
the sparrow, they didn't save them, they didn't do anything.
Do you think we should go a step beyond, Tommy? Why didn't you put something about the chick being rescued or anything like that? What were you thinking?
I was just thinking that they saw it because the next chapter actually shows them that they actually saved it.
Oh, so we didn't have any idea yet that they were going to save that chick. What do you think about that? Interesting. I put the save because I really did feel like you said about going to the computer. They did the research. They knew they wanted to save that chick. So I put that down, but I agree that it might be stepping a little bit too quickly. All right, so here's what I want you to do for homework. You are going to be reading the rest of the book, and I know some of you read a little bit further, which is fine, but I want you to do the same thing. I want you to find a title for chapters 4, 5, and 6 for the next time we meet, and I want you to think about who or what the chapter's about, but also what about that who or what to help you come up with the title, because those are, Lawrence, the most important pieces of what it is that you're reading in each chapter. Okay? All right, quickly. Okay, everybody. Remember how last time we met, we talked about the rest of the book and you told me about your chapter titles. You did a really nice job selecting your chapter titles based on these 2 criteria, or the most important parts of your chapter. And now I also gave you another assignment to bring back today. I felt that there were some really tricky phrases in our book. Did you think so too? And so I had you think about some of those phrases and write down your thinking in preparation for this group meeting today, our 3rd meeting on our book. Are you ready to share some of the things you thought? All right, here we go. I think it was chapter 1, page 6. It said, Troy was sure he'd take the science fair by storm. What in the world does that mean?
I think it means he'd like be the best and win.
Oh, that he'd be the best?
Yeah.
What did you think, Lawrence?
I thought that it would be that everybody would like his project.
Okay. What are you thinking, Lauren?
Sure he like won over all the other people who were entering.
Ah, so you think he's going to do really well. I kind of agree with you. You know, when a storm comes on, it just boom hits, doesn't it? And I was kind of thinking the same thing, that he was really going to do well and just come in there and catch their eye. All right, let's take a look. And I actually want to go down to the next one that came up in chapter 1. That phrase was, but none of them, and he was talking about the rocks, could light globes and spin wheels. What did he mean by that? That none of his rocks could light globes and spin wheels. Ready?
None of them were really special rocks.
Ah, who was he comparing his project to? Do you remember? That part was kind of confusing. Tommy?
The other kids in the science
Oh,
fair.
okay.
And I think he means that they just don't power stuff and they can't really run like a hamster powered like.
So they're not as spectacular is what he's thinking. Lawrence?
Well, I think that it's none of his rocks were like Danielle and Alex's project.
Ah, so he didn't think it would hold a candle to that, huh? Or that it would be as good. Let's go to the final one. On chapter 6, page 31. This one was interesting. This was how the story ended. And thanks to Troy's rock collecting, he could tell them. And he was referring to, he could tell them what to do if you find a stray bird. What did that mean? And thanks to Troy's rock collecting. What's that have to do with anything here? Ready, 8?
To look for rocks, and you might find an egg that you think it's a rock.
Oh, okay. So if you find a rock, it could actually lead to something better. Could be an egg. Lauren, what are you thinking?
Like if it wasn't for his rock collecting, like if he didn't have a rock collection, then he wouldn't have ever found a baby bird that he could use for the science.
Oh, what do you think of that thought? That if he hadn't gone out rock collecting, he would never have found the baby bird. It's almost kind of cause and effect. Because he went out rock collecting, he found that bird. What were you thinking, Lawrence?
Well, mine was kind of the same, except he was hunting for rocks and he found the stray bird. So it was kind of the same thing.
Okay, the cause and effect. Tommy, is that what you thought?
I thought, yeah, basically.
You know, if he hadn't gone out rock collecting that day, do you think he would have stuck with his project? Do you think he would have stuck with rocks? Why do you think he would have stuck with rocks?
Well, it's the only thing he had.
Okay.
Because he wouldn't have had anything else, and like he would just have to have the rocks.
The only project that he could do was the rocks before, but when he found the bird, he had an idea.
So you think it's because he actually went in search of those rocks that this magnificent, this bird incident happened.
Golden bird.
The golden bird, we could call it the golden egg, right?
Instead of the golden bridge, the golden bird.
There you go. And why would you call it the golden bird?
Because it was the bird that helped him.
Ah, very good. All right. Well, you did a wonderful job. I want to end by asking you once again, and I know we've talked a lot about it over the last 3 sessions, very quickly, when you read a book on your own, how is that author getting the title for each chapter? Can you quick talk together, you two, quick to sum it up? How, going back to what we've been doing the last 3 days, how do you come up with your title? Go quickly and talk.
think about what's happening.
Well, you have to think about
is it and
who is in the chapter and what's happening.
What's like the main idea?
Or what's happening, who's in the chapter.
Good. All right, so I think I heard it. Find the main idea, determine the most important parts, along with trying to figure out kind of all these fancy phrases and colorful language that might come up. All right, you did a nice job, second graders. I appreciate your help. And if you would, go ahead and turn your books in, and I will see you probably tomorrow. I'll pop back in.
You have just watched one example of a transitional and fluent guided reading lesson. Hopefully you gained ideas as you watched me introduce the text, listen to the students read aloud, discuss, and dig deeper into figurative language.